One of the reasons why I'm feeling calmer and calmer during the coronavirus is because of my past being panicky anarchy my whole life. I literally spent the first maybe 30, 35 years of my life having panic attacks, generalized anxiety, and because of that, and let me just give you an example. When a thunderstorm was predicted for my neighborhood, I would be watching the Weather Channel nonstop. And then my children were young. I'd gather up my children and I'd take them into the innermost room of the house because I was deathly afraid of thunderstorms. And that was my way of feeling safe. So I did so many of those kind of things when I was younger and had to really, really work on getting my nervous system to calm down. Interestingly enough, when I was finally diagnosed with autoimmune disease, it all started making sense. The panic attacks when I was younger, the generalized anxiety, the gut issues, it all was the precursors to what eventually became a full blown autoimmune disease. So here I am, about 7 years into managing my autoimmune disease. And so much of what I have done to manage my disease involves managing my emotions and nervous system and doing a lot of self regulation. That's why I became a yoga teacher. I realized how important yoga was for self regulation. And then I changed my diet and a huge amount of other lifestyle factors. Ironically, one of the things that I changed at that time was the amount of time I spent going out in public. So, social distancing is something I've been doing for now 5, 6 years, not because, well, because it feels better for my nervous system, I guess what I want to say. So, spending time alone, spending time in nature, spending time with my loved ones, spending time with my pets, spending time making jewelry are all things that have become part of my life and my husband's life. And so we have not had a huge change in our lives by social distancing because it was something we were doing to manage stress in a very crazy world. And so I also want to discuss this canary in a coal mine. I didn't realize I was a canary in a coal mine until, you know, maybe a year or two ago when I started following people like Dr. Kelly Brogan. And those of us, many of us who have autoimmune diseases, are canaries in coal mines, which means we are more sensitive and aware of what's going on around us and what's going wrong, particularly in the environment. So if you know anything about the story of the canary in the coal mines, they would send the canaries down first to test the safety of the coal mine. And so people who are canaries in coal mines, we have been aware of environmental problems and problems with the way we've been living for for me it's been about 30, 40 years. I have recognized that what we are doing is unsustainable. And so in my small way, almost everything I've done in the past 30 or 40 years has been educating myself and then educating people who are willing to listen about a different way to live. And so, in the current situation where a lot of people are having trouble adjusting to this new way of living, I and my family, at least my husband and I, have been preparing to live in a quieter way for a long time because we realized it was better for us, better for the environment, and it's all about being healthy and happy. And so a lot of what, the way most of society has lived, at least from my vantage point, is not sustainable. And so taking a pause like this in a pandemic might give other people the chance to really evaluate, am I living in a sustainable way? And so once we get through the fear, and I do want to talk about fear. I'm glad I brought that up. I'm doing this kind of randomly, but I had a lot of thoughts that I wanted to share, and I'm really just speaking from my heart. So fear is what I had so much of for the first 30, maybe 40 years of my life. I was afraid of everything. And when you have fear, you run to doctors looking for answers. You stockpile. You don't reach out and help others because you're worried that if you reach out and help others, you won't have enough for yourself. And so I have experienced fear in the past, and I've spent a lot of my time learning how to understand fear and look deeply into fear and process it. And now I just don't have the same fears that I did when I was younger. And I think fear is far more dangerous than the coronavirus. And the other thing that I think is very, very dangerous, at least for those of us that are not seriously ill. And I do want you to understand, I am not saying that this is not dangerous, but for those of us that are not seriously ill, the fear, the nervous system, dysregulation, the gut issues from panicking are all the things that are going to create long-term illness. I'm a perfect example of that. That was my life. And my life was not over coronaviruses. I panicked over thunderstorms. I panicked over the potential of earthquakes. I panicked over my husband being 10 minutes late before there were cell phones. And so this is the way I lived a good part of my life. And then couple that with the idea that I was a canary in a coal mine and hypersensitive to environmental changes and things that were going on, I ended up in full-blown autoimmune disease. And so I do understand the roots of disease, and I also understand how important it is that throughout this whole process that you work on your nervous system regulation, you work on calming your fears. And I'm not saying there's any specific way to do it. For me, it might be yoga, meditation, walks in nature, making jewelry. For one of my sons, it's humor. And humor keeps his nervous system from getting dysregulated. And then, for other people, it might be spending time watching all of the news and educating themselves. And that's not a bad thing as long as you have enough discernment to figure out, what is fear-based and what is fact-based. And so in all of these methods of dealing with your fears and working on your own nervous system regulation, just take time to process in whatever way works for you. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's having a conversation with somebody who you respect. Maybe it is just sitting quietly and meditating, or maybe it is joining in with other people in groups. But spend the time to observe, and this is where the yoga practice comes in. Yoga is about observing. observing what's going on in our mind and our body and our spirit. So we move our body, we breathe, but mostly we pay attention. We watch, we observe. And as we watch and observe and breathe and move our body, we start to understand where we're holding tension, what's going on, why we feel this way. And so I guess in this rambling today, I just hope that you pay attention to your nervous system. You really discern very carefully fact from fiction or fact from fear as you're listening to all the reports, and that you also have faith, and faith that we will get through this, we will be okay, and especially if we don't move forward with fear, if we move forward with compassion and kindness and love and all these principles that I have learned in my yoga trainings, these really will come in handy as you are, navigating the waters of coronavirus. And again, if you need my help, I am going to be starting the online yoga classes. I do have online coaching, and I'm just willing to talk to people and share whatever I can. So I wish you well. Mostly I wish you calmness. I wish you breathing. I wish you observation, and we shall all get through this together. Namaste.